city's plight. Shadows fall, dimming the light. Whispers grow, a rising tide. Vindicator, where do you hide? Fear is over, heart ablaze. Through smoky haze, he sets his gaze. Justice calls a burning need. A city's wounds he vows to heed. From cobbled streets to tower high, Vindicator takes to the sky. Strikes back with iron hands, defender of this promised land. Breaks the chains, sets spirits free. Vindicator for all to see. Whispers turn to thunderous roar as shadows creep. He slams the door on tyranny's cruel, grasping hand. He fights for freedom, takes a stand with courage born of darkest night. He ignites hope, a guiding light. Strikes back with iron hands, defender of this promised land. Breaks the chains, sets spirits free. Vindicator for all to see. Though battles rage and darkness reigns, hope's ember burns within his veins. He'll never yield, he'll never fall. He answers freedom's clarion call. Strikes back with iron hands, defender of this promised land. Breaks the chains, sets spirits free. Vindicator for all to see. A symbol etched against the moon. Vindicator rising soon.
Hello everybody, how you all doing? So today's live stream is going to be about the protest yesterday for obvious reasons. Need to talk about it. I'm glad you like it. I like the intro. I am working on an even better intro at the minute, so stay tuned for that one. Still keeping the same song, we're just working on a little bit more with the AI to produce some more interesting pictures on it. But yeah, thanks for that. Right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to switch the camera on for this one, because yesterday I was walking down to the protest and a gentleman approached me and said, "Are you Vindicator?" And I said, "Yeah." And he turns out he's a subscriber, a gentleman called Jonathan. And he handed me a card. And this is the reason why I do this channel. This is the reason why I do this. I'm going to turn the camera on so you can actually see it. So this was the card that he sent me, and he wrote something on it. So I want to read this out because he also put £100 in the card as a donation. I wasn't expecting that at all. So he says this: "Thank you so much for your hard work doing the YouTube videos. You're up there with the best of them. Thousands like me enjoy your clarity and inspiration it brings. Knowing someone like you is doing all this gives a daily lift, which makes all the difference. You're a true hero and a true patriot. This is yours to do with any way you like." And he's talking about the £100 donation there, which was insane. And he says, "To you and your family, wishing you a happy Christmas and a happy New Year. Best wishes from Jonathan." This is why I do it. Not for the money. Not for the money. I do this because it's to inspire people. It's to inspire people like you out there watching this right now to go out and do the things that I'm doing. And this is why this gentleman traveled. I don't know how far he traveled, but he just traveled there. He wasn't even at the protest. He just came to see me and to hand me this card, and then he went away afterwards. And you don't realize the impact you're having on people until things like this happen. Because to me, I'm just a person behind a camera. I'm just a person that goes to protests and tries to show you guys what's actually going on in the world. I'm not the sort of person that can sit behind a computer screen and talk about what's happening. I want to be out there showing it to you. And I mean, it's not just it. I mean, at the Sheffield protest as well, a lady came up to me and she said, the reason I'm here today is because of you and your inspiration. You've inspired me to come out, even though I'm scared, to come to this protest. She was talking about the Nick Tenconi UKIP protest, to come to the protest and to stand up and be counted. And that is what this channel is trying to do. It's trying to wake people up and make them not afraid, and just to prove to them that they have power. You have power. Your power is being out there and making yourself known. And a lot of people come forward and say that protests aren't doing anything. They're not doing anything. At one time, I was in a similar mind, but keep going to them and seeing the effect, it's waking people up. It's encouraging more and more people to come out. It's obviously the reason these protests happen is to highlight what's going on in these illegal immigrant hotels. But it has another effect as well. It's waking people up. So the argument of whether or not they have any effect on the government, because it's probably, the reality is these protests will have no effect on the government because they can just ignore them. But what it is doing, it's waking people up. It's showing people that they have the power and they shouldn't be afraid to come out and protest about what's happening in this country. And that is what we need to do. We need to wake people up. That's what needs to happen. There's still far too many people not aware of what is happening in this country, simply because they're not on the internet. But if we get off the internet, we go out there in the streets and we show them, they can see it for themselves what's happening. That's what we need to do. And this is what this channel is to do. It's to give inspiration to people in a time when there's hardly, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Sometimes it might seem like I'm coming down on things or I'm not giving any hope, but I won't give false hope either. I won't give false hope. It'll never be sugarcoated. It will just be reality as it is. And that's why I go on these protests like I did yesterday. So I want to thank Jonathan. That was an amazing gesture, mate. I wasn't expecting that at all, one little bit. And, I hope you're watching this. I hope you in the live stream somewhere. And, I can't thank you enough for what you did. It's not just the money. It's the sentiment as well. It's this. This is what inspires me to keep going. This proves that I'm making a difference. If I can just inspire one person, this channel has done its job. It really has. So that being said, let's get into the protest from yesterday, because as Steve was saying, it was an absolute shit show. So look at some of the comments first. We're saying, hi chat, by the way. Hi chat, how you all doing? Hope you're all doing well. Yeah, it definitely was. Definitely was. Lies and fear is the only thing the government have got to control. Exactly. Totally agree with that. Yeah, it was, Steve. It was a great card. Love the sentiment behind it. Exactly. The money is nice, but what matters is that people see what others are doing, not only appreciate them, but let them know personally that they make a difference. Nice one. It is. It is. That's what counts. Just go up. If you're at a protest, I'm not talking about me. If you see the people, the citizen journalists out there doing their job, just go up and show your support for them. Just say we're behind you. We appreciate what you're doing. We know it's hard sometimes because it does look easy. It looks easy what we do, and it's really not. You don't see the behind the scenes of what happens sometimes. Some of the stuff that happens, obviously, I don't show people because for obvious reasons. But there is quite a lot that goes off in the background, and you guys don't always see that. It's not easy. You do sacrifice quite a lot as well, and that is something that I've accepted to do in doing this channel. Not trying to go on a pity parade or anything like that. But yeah, looks like yeah. That's great. Right, so let's get into it. So yesterday, right, I'll fill you in. Right, this is the story from the beginning. So I went to the protest yesterday at the Sandpiper Hotel in Chesterfield. I was walking up to where the protest was to be held. I put my bag down. I saw the police officers. They were all standing at the fence. Didn't really pay much attention to them. I put my bag down, and I was getting all my cameras and stuff out, set up, get my body camera on. And if I wish I'd have got the body camera running straight away, to be honest with you, this time around, but I didn't have it. The one time I don't have it running straight away, this happens. So the police officers came round. I was the only one there, by the way, at this point. There was a young lad in the actual Patriot side, a young lad. I'm talking a very young lad, probably I'd say about 11 or 12 in the pen bit of the protest. We were the only two people there. So they came up to me and they said, "Which side are you choosing?" I said, "I'm not choosing any side because I'm a citizen journalist. I'm going to be recording both sides of the protest." And they said, you can't do that. You've got to pick a side." So I'm not picking a side because I'm a citizen journalist. And then they said, "Well, have you got any journalistic accreditation? Meaning, have you got a card to prove that you're a journalist?" And it's like, "No." "Have you got any ID?" I said, "I'm not giving you my ID. I don't need to identify myself as a journalist." I said, "I'm covered by the Section 17 of the Public Order Act, which allows free movement of journalists to interview and record and film a protest." That's what I was going by. Now, I want to say this, right? There is no law that states the police can decide who and who isn't a journalist. If you pick up a camera, if you get your camera phone and you pick it up and you start recording and say, "I'm a citizen journalist," you're a journalist. And Section 17 covers that. Now, in the course of that, if you commit an offence while you're doing your journalism, or you deliberately try to antagonise one side of the protest over another, then you will lose that protection from the Section 17. As long as you just peacefully record and film, you're fine. You're good to go. And that's what the police should have done. They should have basically policed it like that. They should have just said, right, okay, if you antagonise anybody, though, you will lose that protection, and you will be subject to arrest. That's fair enough. That's fine. I'd have been okay with that. That's perfectly fine. That's allowing us to go back and forth and do what we need to do. But they didn't do that. They laid down the law. They basically said, well, they came out and said that the Council of Police Chiefs only accepts a accredited union card, which would be from the Union of Journalists or whatever it is. And I said, well, you do know on their website, it does tell you that the actual union card isn't proof of anyone being a journalist, for a very good reason, because anyone can be a journalist. You don't have to be a member of that union to be a journalist. But they just wouldn't have it. I was trying to get the point across. And then the inspector came across and threatened me with arrest. There was nobody there. There was absolutely nobody there at the protest. The pen was emptied, apart from that young lad that was in the Patriot side one. The pen at the opposite side, where the lefties were going to be, totally empty, nobody around. And he says, if you don't pick a side, you'll potentially be in breach of the Section 14. And I said, how? How am I going to be in breach of the Section 14? How can I cause a breach of the peace when there's literally nobody here to cause a breach of the peace to? And I said to him, I says, how would I be causing a breach of the peace? Just by peacefully standing here and putting on my camera equipment. How would I be breaching the Section 14? Because he was stating that people weren't allowed to actually be in the sterile area. He said, nobody's allowed to loiter in the sterile area. Nobody's allowed to be in it. I said, okay, that's fair enough. And so instead of pushing the issue and getting arrested and then taking me off the board, which is exactly what they wanted to do. That's what they wanted to do. They were deliberately gunning for any citizen journalist that day. Any citizen journalist, that was it. If they just didn't accept you. They forced you to be a protester. They designated you a protester. That's what they did. So I had no choice. I just chose the Patriot side, obviously. So that was that. I thought I'm not going to push the issue. It's good enough that I can actually get this on camera now, because when others come, I'm going to record you saying all this to them. And that's what I did. If you watch my live stream, that's exactly what I did. I got the same spiel as they did when I first arrived. Threatened with arrest, immediately harassed as well. There were 7 police officers surrounding me. It's like, and I did say to them, I said, why have you come over to me? Why don't you just send your police liaison officer over to me to convey this information to me, instead of having 7 police officers standing around me trying to intimidate me? I said that to him. And funnily enough, Steve, right, I did actually say this to him. I said, you know what? Leadership is supposed to be accredited with some kind of common sense. I know police don't have common sense. I know the leadership doesn't have common sense. They proved that yesterday. But just for the sake of argument, right? I said, for the sake of argument, you're supposed to be accredited with some kind of common sense. Doesn't your common sense tell you that I'm peaceful? I said I'm going to comply with any orders that you give me, lawful orders that you give me regarding this protest today. All I'm going to do is walk from either side and cover the protest. That's all I'm going to do. They wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow any citizen journalists, any of us, to go and film the lefties. I have got a video coming out tomorrow which proves the 2-tier policing. They can scream to high heaven that yesterday wasn't 2-tiered or 2-tier policing doesn't exist. I've got proof that it exists, because I recorded from the front pen of the protest them allowing 2 stand up to racism so-called media people to come into the quarantine zone, the sterilized zone, and film us and take photographs of us. How is that not 2-tier policing? They told us from the very beginning nobody was allowed in the sterile area. They weren't allowed to loiter in there. They weren't allowed to be in there. And yet they allowed the Derbyshire Times to come up, who didn't have a press pass, by the way. He just showed them his contract. You know, next time I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that and see how it goes, because all he did, he didn't show them a press pass. He just showed them the contract he had to be a media person. So next time, I'm just going to pull up my YouTube contract with YouTube partnership. Say, YouTube is employing me to be a citizen journalist. They employ me to take footage and put it up on YouTube, and for me to make money from me and them to add money from revenue. See how that goes down. We'll see how they respond to that, because apparently just showing you contract of employment is enough to get you, for them to recognize you as accredited press, even though we did that press card. AY Audits had an international press pass, which they refused to accept. They wouldn't accept it, even though that one trumps the one that they accept, because it's an international one. They wouldn't accept it. And they gave me this absolute horse shit about the Council of Police Chiefs only accepting the official accreditation of the Union of Journalists, which is rubbish. Because if any of you go to the website, it will tell you on the website that the union card does not say that you are a journalist. It's not to say that you're a journalist. It's not an ID card. It's just a union card. It was absolute rubbish. And you saw the footage of AY Audits getting frustrated with that police officer. This is why, because the police officers at the opposite side told him that if he walked all the way around, there's a path going around the back of the hotel, which leads you to where he was actually arrested. He was outside the Section 14 zone. He was nowhere near the area. I'm going to bring this up in a bit. I'll bring this up on screen, and I'll show you the actual map of the area, and I'll show where AY Audits actually was. He wasn't even in the area where the Section 14 was actually in effect. He was outside of it. And they arrested him for breaching the Section 14, even though he wasn't in the area. Crazy. Absolutely crazy what was going on yesterday. Right, so there's a reason why the restrictions were so tough yesterday. And that's because of our local MP, Toby Perkins. He had his fingerprints all over this from the beginning. Yeah, I saw that. I would show it, but we'll have a look at this first, though. because this is Alice. There's the actual arrest. Look, let's get rid of that. Don't need that on there. This is actually the actual arrest. I'm not going to show it, but this is NG reports. Oh no, this is if you want to go and see AY audits getting arrested, and go and watch this video by NG10 reports. But this is Toby Perkins, and I've actually done this right. So this is the interesting part with Toby Perkins. Can you all see that? So let's try and that's it. We'll try and do that. See if we can see that on there. I'm not actually sharing the screen, am I? I'm dopey. Right, share screen. We'll share the screen. Sorry, guys. Right, here we go. Right, you can read that. Okay. Right, so Toby Perkins MP, he's I can see here he is, look, Labour Member of Parliament for Chesterfield, Toby Perkins. I've had discussions with Derbyshire Police ahead of planned counter-protest at the site of the Sandpiper Hotel this weekend. Will be a larger police presence this time and more of a plan to keep protesters, counter-protesters apart following the scenes at the last one. It's also a hope that local households will be less directly intruded upon. If attending, please be mindful that the area you are visiting is a home to many people in Whittington. Now, this is interesting, right? Because the Sandpiper Hotel isn't in Whittington. It's not in Whittington. It's in Sheepbridge. So if you're going to pretend, Toby, if you're going to pretend to care about the residents of the local area, at least get the area correct that you're falsely claiming to be in care of. Yeah, this is how much of an idiot he is. He's a moron. Toby Perkins is an idiot. He is an idiot. He's biased. He called the United Kingdom March far right. He called that far right. So that's the caliber of man we have here. And his fingerprints were all over that protest yesterday. This is why we had the tougher restrictions on the protest, is because of this moron here. So I'll look at some of the comments. Looks like the Great British National Strike, Feb 26, is going ahead. Looking forward to being a part of this. Yeah, that'd be great. That guy was the same inspector that panicked at the previous Sandpiper demo. Yeah, he was an idiot. Absolute moron. Shouldn't be in the job. I don't know. That's just used up something else. How you doing? How you doing? More like Tony Perkins than Perkins. Yeah, he's an absolute moron. Right, so let's have let's go and take a look at the actual. We'll stop sharing that now. I want to show you the restrictions that are in place. Then we'll have a look at the legislation that protects citizen journalists. We'll get that up now, actually. Right, so I've got that ready to go. Then we'll get rid of Facebook now. Sorry about this, guys. I'm just not prepared today. There wasn't a morning walk video today because I've got, after yesterday's walking about away, I've got plantar fasciitis again in my right foot again. And what I'm going to have to start and do, I'm going to have to start and tape my foot up like I used to do before. You get medical tape and you can tape it up so it doesn't affect your foot as much. So I'm going to have to start doing that before I go on these protests in future. Right, we'll talk about the restrictions, won't we? Just getting the restrictions up now. They should be on here. I only just posted them up today. we can have I think we'll have a look at the arrest of AY Audits in a bit, but it's on Twitter, so I'll look at that in a bit. I don't know if you'll be able to read that, but I can't read it. Right, so go back to StreamYard. We'll share this again. When is my next protest? To be honest with you, I don't know. I've got a few planned. I've got a few videos planned to do. Right, so Vsb, can we sue the government? You can sue the government. You can sue the police for misuse of powers. Definitely. And G10 has it on his stream. Yeah. Right, let's get it up. Let's get this up. I'll answer. I'll look at the chat in a bit. I'm just trying to sort this out. I will get back to the chat in a bit. Promise you. Right. So these were the restrictions. I'll let you read that because I can't read. That's too small. But hopefully you guys can see it. Try and increase that up a little bit. No, it's not going to do it. Okay. Fair enough. So they were basically the restrictions that we had in place, and they had what the definition of what they considered a patriotic protester on the lamppost as well. There was a few more on this. So this was the map. This was the map that they did. So I don't know if you can see that on the screen there. See if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that. Right. So here was this is where the counter protest was. This is where the counter protest was. This is where the protest for the Patriot side was, up here. And this is where AY Audits was. He was about here. You can see that down here. He was about just where this thumb is here. He was here, where he was arrested. So as you can see, he's way outside the Section 14 zone, way outside of it. He was here. And this is where he got arrested, around about down here, for allegedly breaching the Section 14 notice, which wasn't in effect in this area. It was only in this zone here. There's from here, from this point here, there's a bus stop about here. So this is roughly where the Section 14 comes into effect, around about here, this bus stop there. And they claim he was in breach of it. So that was the map of the area, as you can see. That's this was the white bit in the middle is obviously the sterile zone in the middle. This is the Sandpiper Hotel here. And this was the path behind the hotel that AI Audits basically, he didn't go through here. He proceeded to go through the back way, all the way up a road up here. So well out of the Section 14 area. He was actually on this path here at the side. There's a path that goes down. So how he could breach any Section 14 notice by being well away from the protest at all times. So he used this path to come all the way down here, which comes off the screen around about here, and it comes up around about here like this, and then leads to here. And this is where he got arrested. So I'm just painting the picture for you to show exactly what happened yesterday. And the police arrested him well outside of the actual zone itself. Yeah, they do, because it was nowhere near there. Absolutely nowhere near there at all. Yeah, and they had access to that map as well. All the officers had access to this map. The map looks pretty detailed. Yeah, the police had these maps on them, so they can see exactly where the Section 14 notice actually is for their reference. All they would have had to have done is look at this map and seen that AI Audits was down here, where this thumb was here, just where the edge of this thumb was here, well outside the area, and they would have to have realised that they had absolutely no powers to arrest him. They wanted to arrest him. That's what they did it for. And according to NG10, the inspector was whispering in their ears, was whispering in the police officer's ears, telling them what to say as to not to get them into trouble for what they were doing, because they knew exactly what they were doing. And the thing is, right, at this point here, where the thumb is, there was a line of police officers. And this is what we believe was stopping protesters coming in, because protesters coming to the event, all they could see was a line of police officers going across the road and onto the public footpath. So that would have intimidated anybody into not attending the protest. I've had people say they turned around when they saw the line of police officers. We have. That's exactly right. We've just got to keep protesting. Exactly, we have. We've got to keep the momentum up going. No matter how many times the police arrest you, yeah. Problem is, if Plod believe you're a protester acting outside the Section 12 restriction area, they can arrest you for breach of the section, which will be under Section 14. Apparently, there was no such section in place. No such section was in place. From what we told, the Section 14 was only active within this area. We asked police officers, and AY Audits, you can go and ask him. You can go and see his footage. He asked the police officers at this side that if he went around that way and stopped here, Mystic Media was stood there filming as well. He wasn't arrested. They were targeting specific people to be arrested. That's what they were doing. Had nothing to do with them believing who was a protester and who wasn't. That was a load of rubbish from the beginning. Total load of rubbish. They knew they were overstepping the mark with their powers that day. It was a blatant overreach of power. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. The classic one, if they could have arrested with the Palestine flag on her way home because she continued to demonstrate outside the restricted area. Exactly. Didn't do that, though. Also, they didn't arrest anybody because they weren't watching them. They simply were not watching the counter-protesters. They weren't watching them. All attention was on us. You'll see from the video footage that I'm going to be releasing throughout the week about what they were doing to us. All attention was on us. We had two teams. They were secretly trying to covertly film us all the time, the evidence gatherers from all sides. No attention was on the counter-protest at all. We had the drone over us all the time, watching us. The police drone was watching us the whole time. Not the counter-protest, us. All attention was on us. And this is why I said that Toby Perkins had his fingerprints all over this. This was blatantly biased policing in every way, shape, and form. You mean that no one got permission to do a demonstration, which was when I've come across a wall of police, I do not answer questions and politely ask them, could I get past? Yeah, but that's the average person. You got to think the average person that's never really dealt with the police. You see a wall of police, it's going to intimidate them. Steve, right. They were giving mixed signals all day, mate. They didn't even know what they were doing themselves, as the police always do. They were having to clarify their own restrictions on Google because they didn't know them. They didn't know what they were implementing. We were getting mixed signals all day about everything that they were doing because they just simply didn't know. Like you said from the beginning of this, when you started posting comments on here, it was a farce from beginning to end. They didn't know their arse from their elbow at all. They were fucking useless. Hey, Annie. So, Annie, tell the chat what the police were like yesterday. Just tell the chat and I'll highlight it on the screen. Just sum it up in your own words what the police were like with the citizen journalists. What were they doing to the citizen journalists all day? Yeah, there you go. He got permission. I remember if AY asked if he could walk around that way, and the copper told him, okay. He did. He said it was okay. AY was trying to get to his car, by the way. He parked his car in the car park, and they wouldn't let him go down to it. He says, all I want to do is go to my car. All they would have had to have done is what they were doing with everybody else, is just escort him through. They were escorting members of the public through the protest. So why couldn't they just do it? And there's that instant, right? There's the instant. There you go. The police were absolutely despicable. They were. All they would have had to have done, that police officer, when AY audits asked him for his warrant card, don't forget their first duty is to de-escalate any situation. So if that had been me and I'd been stood there and I'd given a member of the public a directive and then they asked me for my warrant card, I'd have just shown it to them. De-escalation. It's no skin off my nose, is it? To de-escalate that situation and get them to back off and maybe calm down a little bit. That's all he would have had to have done. But no, he didn't. He chose not to do it, which aggravated the situation even more. They were just shit police officers. Right, I'm going to say this as well, right? There were some decent police officers there. The police liaison officers were great. There were even some police officers on the ground that that you could tell didn't really want to do what they were being told to do. And I say this every time. You can tell it in their face. They don't really want to do it. And I know people are going to say, I was just following orders is no excuse. And I totally agree with that. But there were some officers actually using the common sense. These are the people that should be in leadership. These are the ones that should be in leadership and running the police force, but sadly aren't, because there are gatekeepers in the way that stop police officers like that from getting into positions of power, because they want the police force to be a political entity. They want to be able to discriminate against people based on their political beliefs. They want that. The state wants that. And that's why they've put these specific inspectors and chief constables in these places they're in, because they are political. The trouble is, the leadership is absolutely useless. They've got no clue. They promote people that shouldn't be in the positions. The inspector yesterday should be nowhere near a leadership role. He was absolutely useless. He was pathetic. He was absolutely pathetic. He was the classic case of it's the law of the land. He's the sort of person that would have been persecuting the Jews in Nazi Germany, because he would have said, the law is the law, the law is the law. So the law is the law, and I've got to follow it. That was his mentality yesterday. And like I said, you need leadership in those roles that are going to interpret the law in the way they're meant to be interpreted, not to be abused like he was doing yesterday. He was abusing his position. He was abusing police powers yesterday to suppress the power of citizen journalists to report on that event. That was deliberate, absolutely 100% deliberate. And there's nobody that will convince me of any other way of that from yesterday. I saw it for myself with my own eyes. Does anyone know the channel name for the guy with you? No, I don't. I don't know who that is. Maybe Steve will know. I don't know. If I've been specifically asked by a member of the public for my warrant card, I have shown it, asking them to see it as a requirement, even in uniform. Normally, you call a number. Yeah, exactly. They're supposed to identify themselves. The guy wasn't even identifying himself. He just said, my collar number's enough, sort of thing. But even if that was the case, right, because it does state in their rules, it said that a police officer's uniform is enough to identify them as a police officer with their collar numbers. Well, I'll I'll show you what the AI says on it anyway. This is what the AI says about police identifying themselves. Should UK police officers identify themselves with their warrant card if asked to do so by a member of the public?
Yes, a UK police officer should produce their warrant card if you ask for it, even if they are in uniform, unless the circumstances prevent it or the request is unreasonable. Officers in plain clothes must show their warrant card when exercising police powers.
There you go. So all that officer had to do to de-escalate that situation was to show his warrant card. I'm going to say this right. AY audits can be to some people like Marmite. You either love him or you hate him, because he can come across as a bit full on in the things that he does. But I completely understand this frustration from yesterday, because I had the same frustration myself with what the police were actually doing. We knew they were abusing their powers, completely abusing their powers, whilst allowing the Derbyshire Times, who didn't even show his accreditation, come up. We have an independent journalist. He didn't have an accredited union card. He just showed his contract of employment to come up. So all this rubbish about, oh, we only accept the journalistic union card was a load of rubbish. They're accepting anything from what they perceive to be the mainstream media. They were allowed up, and this is where we get into the crux of all this, right? Because this is why they did what they did. They will allow the mainstream media to come up as media because they know they're controlled. They're only going to report the news a certain way because the story is already written before they come to the protest. They know this. The reason they're so fearful of citizen journalists is because they can't be controlled. It's because they will film and record absolutely everything, and the police and the authorities and the government have absolutely no control about that. They can't control it. So this is how they're going to control it. They're just going to say, we don't recognize you as citizen journalists. I think this is going to happen at every single protest now. The police are just going to say, we only accept proper journalistic accreditation, which doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Yeah, I mentioned that, Annie. AY said he has an international journalist card, but the Popo said they wouldn't accept that. It's from the same people. How are you doing? Thank you. Thank you for that. Like I said, right, I met some really nice police officers yesterday that just wanted to do their job. And then there were some real arseholes. It was a mixed bag yesterday. I'm not going to generalize about the whole of the police that were there. There were some genuinely nice police officers, but there were some proper arseholes mixed in with them as well that were just drunk on power. The police inspector, for one, quite a few of the taller police officers just wanted to get hands-on with AY audits. It's just so what they can go back to the changing room and brag about, I arrested AY audits today. That's what it's all about. Everyone needs to. Remember the protest as Levant covering the Tommy Robinson trial had the same problem. Yeah. I know the IPC were a waste of time usually, but complaints to them, especially with evidence, can cause cops to think twice, if only to avoid the inconvenience. Yeah. I think quite a few of the auditors from yesterday, some of the citizen journalists, are putting in civil complaints against the police for breaching their human rights, because there was a clear breach of human rights there yesterday, and a clear breach of police policy regarding Section 17 regarding journalists of the Public Order Act, which allows them to be police officers. The liaison officers who came to the Best Western were okay, as always. but there were some proper miserable barstools too. Yeah, there were. Exactly. That's 100%. The leadership dictates how the foot soldiers behave. And I've got to say, right, if you're going to form a line of police officers, at least have them understand which sections are actually in place. So when members of public come up and ask them what sections are in place, that they know what to say to the public, because half of them didn't even know. They didn't even know what sections were in place. So how are you supposed to enforce the law of the day with the sections if you don't even know what sections are actually in place? Do they actually do briefings anymore? Do they hold briefings for these officers? Or do they just stick them out on the streets, just wing it and hope they get away with it? Because that's what it looked like from yesterday. Yesterday was an absolute, complete shit show. There we go. Turn that off a bit. There we go. That's better. Try to think if there's anything else I've got to look at. I always get loads of stuff up on the screen and then forget to. Right, oh yeah, I forgot I was going to do this. Well, look at section 17. This is the section. So if you ever go out to any of these protests and the police say you're not a journalist, you've got to pick a side, then you should be quoting this. You should get it on camera, get the collar number, and then quote the section to them. So we'll stop doing that now and we'll actually get this one up on the screen. Because it's important everybody knows their rights. If you're going to go out and do this, if you're going to go to protests and film it, you need to know your rights. You really do. And if they breach them, you just hold them up about it. So this is it. So this is section 17 of the Public Order Act 2023. States that police cannot exercise their powers for the sole purpose of preventing individuals from observing or reporting on protests. This means that journalists and legal observers are protected from being obstructed by police for the purpose of monitoring protests. However, police can still use their powers for other lawful purposes, such as maintaining public order and safety. This section was introduced to ensure that journalists can report on protests without fear of police interference. This is the piece of legislation that we were quoting yesterday. This is the piece of legislation yesterday that the police were breaching. It's like this section of the law didn't exist. Now, you can't cherry pick which parts of the law you're choosing to enforce and which parts of the law you choose to enforce. That's not how the law works. You either enforce the law or you don't. It's as simple as that. It really is. I'll leave that on the screen for a little bit so people can read it. They will make law wherever when no cameras are allowed on a protest. It's like yellow card warnings that were given to squaddies before going out on riot control in Northern Ireland. Fucking hell. The question of if someone needs accreditation to be a journalist has just been raised internationally by rebel media. You don't need it. You don't. This section in law here says you don't need accreditation. You don't need it. In fact, we'll get it up. We'll get it up on the screen now. We'll do this again, just so people know. Do journalists in the UK need to prove that they're journalists in order to cover protests?
While no official media credentials are legally required to cover a protest in the UK, carrying the UK press card is strongly advised, as it is the only press ID formally recognised by the National Police Chiefs Council, NPCC. This card helps police identify you as a professional news gatherer, which may grant certain privileges and smoother interactions.
So there you go. You don't need to do it. It doesn't matter what the Police Commissioners Council say, because there's no law that states that what they're saying is law. No police officer can decide who and who isn't a journalist. Right, not left. Right, not left. Reggie knows more about the law than the coppers, and he's only 15. Exactly. Yeah. They had to Google it. They were Googling it all day. And these are the people that are supposed to be enforcing the law. Even the inspector got it wrong. He got pulled up by a citizen journalist on a piece of legislation that he got wrong. It's like, you're in a position of power, mate. If anybody out of all these people here today should know the law, it's the people that are actually leadership and enforcing it. AAC Council College of Policing is a policy document. It isn't law. Exactly, Steve. Remember in 2029, when the next election comes around, vote UKIP and get Nick Tenconi elected president and take our country back. But the BBC would walk where they wanted yesterday if there was there. Yeah, exactly. I've got a video coming out about them, the Burka Boys. I really think next time, though, if I'm going to offer up some criticism towards the event organisers yesterday as well, I would say the best thing you can do next time is organise a march. Make it a march. Don't make it a static protest outside the hotel. I would say tie up police resources as much as you possibly can by planning a march to the hotel. That will tie up their resources. If they want to do this type of thing to people, then we just have to be just as belligerent to them as well and state we're holding a march. There's going to be a march from the town centre to the hotel. You just got to play hardball with them. They can't deny you. You've got a legal right to assemble and protest. They're only there to facilitate that there's not a breach of the peace during the march. This is what we have to start doing. I've just ended someone, policeman. Let me Google if I can arrest you or not. Exactly. Next time, if Derbyshire Times Journal comes up, call out he's breaching. Yeah. And Googling the laws by the police is a bit stupid. They should go to YouGov. Yeah. They haven't got a clue, though. They just don't know what they're talking about. They really haven't. I'm going to, like I said, there's not going to be a morning walk video tomorrow. It's going to be, because my foot is really playing up still. It really hurts. The arch of my foot is killing me. I'm going to have to take precautions about this in the future. Nick Tenconi showed himself as a weak leader. Almost every march descends into a shambles. I have to agree to that to some extent. I think Nick Tenconi should be a little bit more tough with the police and demand that they do their job rather than just capitulating to them every time. Because that's what he does. He did it in Lincoln. He did it in Sheffield. Instead of just saying, look, we put this protest in weeks ago. We're not going to move our destination just because you haven't got a spine and can't remove the leftists. This is what happened in Sheffield. No, not a lot of people know this, right? The original starting point for the protest in Sheffield, the UKIP march, was Sheffield Cathedral. But what the leftists did was they breached their section 14 and all congregated at the official start point of the UKIP march, and so forced a change in the march. Instead of the police going up there and doing their job and moving them on and say, you either move on or you're subject to arrest, like they would do with patriots if they tried something like that, they just let them stay there and then demanded that Nick Tenconi change his route, which shouldn't have happened. He needs to stand his ground. He needs to stand his ground a little bit more with these people and say, we're not changing. You need to move them on. You need to do your job. I do agree with that, definitely. You're missing the vital point of what the Section 70 police can still use their powers or other lawful purposes such as maintaining public order. Yeah, but only if you commit an offence. Only if you commit an offence. That's just basically stating that, yeah, you've got Section 17 rights, but it doesn't exempt you from not committing an offence. So in the purposes of you using Section 17 rights, and then say you aggravate a crowd or you commit a breach of the peace, you're still subject to arrest, regardless of your Section 17 rights. That's what that means. So as long as you've gone about your lawful business using Section 17, recording the crowd and such, it's the police's job, don't forget, to police the event. It's their job to prevent a breach of the peace. So if you're going around filming somebody and then all of a sudden somebody from that particular protest group comes out and starts trying to grab your camera, it's on the police to arrest that person, not move you on for going about your lawful activities. They're the ones that should be arrested. But that's not what's happening, is it? That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening at all. What's happening is the people that are being attacked are the ones that are being subject to being removed by the police, because they're too spineless to go in there and actually arrest the person that's causing the actual offence. So basically, the police have become victim blamers. It's your fault. You provoked it because you were filming them. We've seen an example of this on my channel where I was filming a altercation between some students and some of the protesters, where an elderly gentleman came up and tried to snatch my camera. I said to the officer, "Mate, you can't let him do that." And then the police officer turned around to me and said, "You shouldn't be antagonising him." And then when I stated I didn't, he came up to me and grabbed my phone. How is that me antagonising him? Again, it's another example of what the police have become. They blame the victim rather than deal with the perpetrator. This needs to stop. Yeah, I think that's where we first met Annie, at the Nottingham one, and it was a disaster. It was a complete disaster. Do you remember all the citizen journalists going up to that little commander who was commanding all the police on that day and telling her, "Look, you've got the left flank blocked off, road at the top blocked off. You've got the right flank blocked off down there, but you've left the middle completely wide open." And we told her, we says, we've got Antifa marching right up the middle into the protest. You've got nobody down there to stop them. They've got no clue. They've got absolutely no clue about tactics and how to deploy their forces. No clue at all. Captain, yes, again, I've already said this, but in order to breach the Section 14, you have to commit an offence. Exactly, Steve. Yeah, I remember, yeah. I think this is why AI was arrested by the other guy with the Union Jack suit on, because they asked to leave a number of times. But why? They weren't in the Section 14 area. They weren't doing anything illegal. The police had no right to move them on. No right at all. If they're stood on the pavement, lawfully doing their business, they don't have to move on. They're not in the Section 14 area, as was clearly stated by the map. The Section 14 area ended where the bus stop was. Wasn't even in the area at the time. So that's a load of rubbish. Yes, they do. They moved the Section 14. Well, where was the police telling people that the Section 14 had been moved? Nobody was informed that the Section 14 had been moved. The inspector didn't come round, any of the protesters, telling us that the Section 14 had been moved. And I was there the whole day. So if you're going to put a change into a Section 14, then you should tell the protesters that it's been changed. Not just change it, because that would be entrapment. You can't just change a Section 14 from the original Section 14 and then expect everybody to know what it's about. That's stupid. Were you even there? Were you even there at the protest? Were you even there at the protest? I know Liverpool was the worst, and I forensically watched all the media, which is often better than being on the ground. Hence, for example, the inspector in Nottingham had worry beads. Oh, God. But I watched it on a number of lives. Well, you're not, no offense, but watching it on a number of live streams isn't being on the ground, is it? Yeah. It's not being on the ground and actually being there and seeing what's actually happening. I'm pretty sure that you can't change a Section 14 halfway through the protest and change the parameters of it. Pretty sure you can't do that. If you did, then you would have to inform the entire protest and anybody in the area what you were doing. Yeah, but what's the point in Googling it if you don't know the actual sections have changed, if the area's changed? There's no point Googling it, is it? Right? So you've gone to the protest. You're already at the protest, right? You've looked at the Section 14, which is on all the lampposts. Yeah? Yeah? So on all the lampposts, you've assumed, right, this is the Section 14. I know it is now. There's a map stating where the Section 14 actually is and the zone that's actually implemented in, which there was on all the lampposts. You can't suddenly then, halfway through a protest, change where the zone of the Section 14 is and then not tell anybody, because nobody was informed. Like Steve's saying here, right? Vsb, yes, you can, but technically you're required to get on a bullhorn and tell people. Yet nobody was informed. Nobody came round and informed anybody. Nobody came around a bullhorn. Nobody came around and told the protesters anything. You can't just change a Section 14 and not inform anybody and then expect people to abide by it. Whether to chant that at every protest. It was chanted yesterday. That was chanted. Exactly. If it was moved, then how come everyone else in the area wasn't arrested? Exactly. Mystic Media was there. He was filming. He was asked to take a side. Yeah. You would need to take down the notices, the old information down too. Exactly. Because then you're giving out conflicting information, aren't you? Yeah. You know what? The lefties were pretty silent. They were silent. And it was done on purpose, Steve. That was done. It was done to kill the protest. It was done to kill the protest. I refuse to join in with that chant. Why do people think? I'll just leave that up there. I have no comment on that. It does. They're in complete chaos. They haven't got a clue. It proved it. The only reason they were semi-organised yesterday is because it was a static protest and there was no march. If that had been a march, it would have been absolute chaos. They wouldn't have known what to do. Because the police, they don't prevent, they only react to situations. I'm going to join UKIP. What political parties are you joining? I'm not joining any political parties. I've got no affiliation to anybody, and that's the way I want to keep it. I'm just saying AY was told a number of times before getting arrested that there was a new section 14. I didn't see that. And in order to do that, that would have to have been to announce the whole protest. And like people suggested here, the old information would have to be taken down. Because for all we know, that could just be an officer making shit up on the go again. Because how many times has that happened? So until you're getting that officially from somebody in leadership, like the inspector that issued it or the superintendent that issued it, then you can take that with a pinch of salt, can't you? Because like I said, half of the police officers didn't even know which sections were in place. No, it wouldn't have been possible to do. Well, why do it then? If it's impossible to do, why do it? You can't just turn around and change the parameters of a protest without telling anybody. Your argument is very, very weak on this one. It's very weak. You can't just do that. You can't just change the rules of a game and then expect everybody to follow the rules of the game. No, he wasn't. He was just told to move. And yes, I watched it. And dare I say, back 40 years ago, I did this shit under the old Riot Act. I did this shit under the old Riot Act. Hi, Vin. Hi, Vin. Where's your email? I don't post my email online. If you want to contact me, my Facebook, it's Vsb. In fact, I'll get you the link up. The best way you can contact me, and this is for everybody, if anybody wants to chat or anything like that, is to contact me via Facebook. I'll get the link, and you can send me a friend request. It's David Vindicator VSB on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, send me a friend request. I'll accept it, and then you can direct message me on there. I don't give out my email online because it will be inundated with nutters. There you go. That's my Facebook profile. So go click on that and send me a friend request. I'll accept it, and you can direct message me on there. Look, I don't think AI's arrest will go anywhere, but if it went to court, the police would use these circumstances under public safety. Yeah, but then they'd be under deep shit as well. If this went to court, which I don't think it will, I think they're using the punishment as the process as the punishment at the minute. Apparently, he's still in custody at the minute, AY. So it looks like they're going to try and keep him in for the full 24 hours that they're allowed to keep him for as punishment. So if this did go to court, then they would obviously bring up the Section 17 rules that the police were breaking. So they're not going to want this to go to court. I think the same as you, it's not going to go anywhere. It won't go anywhere because they're basically putting their own heads in the noose with this one, with how many breaches they committed. And plus they're going to bring up and say, well, it wasn't announced. The changes to the Section 14, if that indeed happened, weren't announced. I didn't hear any announcements. No inspector came up into the protest where I was with a bullhorn, like Steve said, and said, we've changed the restrictions on the Section 14. We've moved the zones. That didn't happen. So they most likely wouldn't have a leg to stand on with that. How can you enforce a law or be expected to abide by a law or a section that's been changed without any notification? The problem for AY is he has all the balls and scope he has in place. And don't forget, he's got it on camera, the police officer stating to him that it was okay for him to go around. So, Stephen must be too honest, dude. I had my Facebook take off me during the pandemic. Vsb bail conditions. Yeah, he's only got bail conditions to stop him entering the county of Surrey, though. Oh, so I thought, yeah, bail, right? I thought it said balls, mate. Yeah, yeah. He's only got conditions stopping him from entering the county of Surrey. So I don't think those bail conditions would really apply. But like you said, you know, yeah. I think that's why he's doing more protests that are away from the south rather than where he's doing them. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. It's amazing. Facebook is probably not a free speech site. Yeah, but I wouldn't be. You can actually comment via direct message to me on there. It's better than direct messaging me on X. Put it that way. Yeah. Thanks, mate. Thanks, Tom. Go subscribe to Tom, by the way. 00 News, or at his tag here at 0 News Army. Go subscribe to Tom. He's a great content creator. It's still a battleground, but I know posting directly onto Facebook is problematic. But all I'm saying is, it's on my page on Facebook. It's easier to direct message me on there, because then I've got one space where people are contacting me rather than I'm getting direct messages on X and getting direct messages on Facebook. I'd rather it just be one place where I can consolidate everybody coming to my channel that wants to message me. That's the best place for them to, because then I can just go through it in one place, and then I can answer everybody's messages that they're sending to me. Otherwise, I miss people's messages. They're all over the place. I don't see them. There you go. There's his links. His links in the chat. Steve's posted his links in the chat. Go subscribe to him. There you go. There you go, Tom. Annie's a good one. She's a good one. She was at the protest with me yesterday. She's awesome. She's amazing. She kept on offering me things, and I felt guilty for not accepting. She offered me some crisps. She offered me a cake, and it's like, what it was. I wasn't being ignorant or anything. Like, when my adrenaline's going, it makes me feel sick. So if I have anything to eat, I just feel really ill. And I made the mistake when I came back. After the protest, the adrenaline started to subside a little bit, and I got in, and my lass had cooked me sausage mash and Yorkshire puddings, and stupidly, I scoffed the lot down, and I felt really ill afterwards. Right, I've got to talk about this as well, because obviously yesterday, there's no point trying to exaggerate it. The numbers were down yesterday at the protest, but also the numbers were down for the lefties as well. I noticed that as well. There weren't half as many lefties there as last time. Switch the laptop off because that's about to go off. Just told me. Yep, I can't eat a drink during action. Yeah. It just makes me feel ill. It's like the adrenaline's so high, and then the minute I start, what I do is I normally have a little bit of a sugary drink. I had some Mountain Dew, quick sip of that, and the energy goes back up again. But it didn't. I don't think the weather helped yesterday. Yeah, it wasn't raining, but it was extremely cold. It was very, very cold. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Totally agree with that. It was really cold yesterday at the Sandpiper. Because it's like it's strange. The actual geography of the place acts like a wind tunnel because it's in like a little bit of a gully. It's like a little bit of a canyon sort of thing. You've got the trees at one side and you've got the buildings at the other. And acts like a little bit of a wind tunnel. So the icy wind just comes blasting at you. And that's another reason why the live streams are a bit pants up there, because you're in a bit of a dip. So that's why the live stream kept on dipping out as well. Yeah, I mean, this time of year, getting towards December, numbers are going to drop off. They're going to drop off. But, we haven't got that long till spring. The numbers will start picking up again. So, Steve, it does work putting people off, whatever people admit. Yeah, it does. So, no could be on the road, Peter Street, yeah. They always pick off the mic. It's just the time of year, isn't it, Tom? I mean, it's getting darker at night. It got really cold. You've got people with kids out. So if they brought kids with them, the kids are going to be cold. So they're going to go home early, aren't they? I think, I'm not sure, somebody correct me, but I think the original protest was actually cancelled. And then some other organisers actually picked up the protest and carried it on. I just think that's what's happened. So I think some people thought it'd been cancelled. That's why there might have been low turnout as well. I might be wrong. That's what I heard anyway. I've not heard anything about that yet. But yeah, they definitely do. I was wearing 2 sets of thermals, a long sleeve t-shirt, and short sleeve t-shirt and hoodie, and my coat. I went prepared. Yeah, and there's me, idiot, in my shorts. Yeah. I was told, just rub it in. I hate admitting it, but people are summer protesters. Plus, some protesters are being held at 5 p.m. at night. For streamers like me, digital camera do terrible in low artificial light. Yeah, that's true as well, Steve. Right, guys, I think I've said all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say is thank you for coming to the live stream. Thank you for watching. It's been brilliant, amazing. Like having these live streams and talking to you guys is excellent. I love doing it. I really do. And without you, the channel's nothing. It really isn't. So thank you again. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting on my videos. Like I said, tomorrow, there's not going to be a morning walk video tomorrow because my foot's still playing me up. So there will be some more footage from the protest. Tomorrow's video is going to be the proof of the police just letting stand up to racing protesters walk into the middle of the so-called sterile area and film. So watch out for that one. Yeah, but while people stay at home, the lefties are out trying to cause havoc at Christmas markets. Their momentum is going. You know what? In that situation, though, I'd rather there be no patriots around. Because if they're doing that, they can't blame it on the patriots, can they? That's solely on the lefties. They can't blame it on the far right if there's no far right there, can they? So in a way, that works to our favour in that respect. But yeah, I get what you're meaning. But yeah, I'm glad that there were no people there. Yeah, but when people Christmas markets, the momentum is still going while English complain about the fresh air online. Again, I've got to ask, if you're going to come here and criticise people, what are you doing? Are you going to these protests? Exactly. That's why we get a lot of. That's why the numbers are massive in the summer, especially hot summers. Right, guys, I'm going to call it here. Thanks everybody coming along. It's been awesome. Awesome talking to you all again. I shall see you all soon. This is Vindicator signing off.